So you're in Malta
Sometimes.
still.
Technically.
Okay, and you're here in Barcelona now. How's
Yes.
it shaken out so far?
It's great. ICBC yesterday, so a little tired today.
Yeah, that was sounded pretty immense. How was the actual conference though?
Yeah. I know, the conference was really good. I went to a bunch of talks, and I think they did a really good lineup.
Which did they manage to rope in some sort of minor celeb or Hollywood stars they have done in previous years? Did they have a standout personality, a la Jim Belushi?
I'm a huge nerdy fan of Bo Whitney, so he was talking, and I thought that was cool.
Okay, you've mentioned this man. I'm not familiar with you. I'm not familiar with the majesty of Bo Whitney, but I'll look into him.
He's an economist.
Economist.
And I'm a nerd, so.
Economists and nerds and Bo Whitney. That's a money name, though. I like that. That is a good name.
Yeah.
Cool. And so, you've been to Spannabis already today? Have you taken a look around, or did you kind of bail and going back tomorrow, or just bailing altogether? No, I'm kidding.
So I did make it out there, and then I saw how crowded it was, and I left before I got in, because there was just no way. I wanted to save my energy for this.
Okay. So what was your... very diplomatically put, if I must say. So yeah, what's your kind of plan the next few days? You just kind of meeting up with people, hanging with friends, and just kind of or networking. What's the MO here?
I got made fun of a lot yesterday because they kept saying that I wasn't working.
Okay.
Because I felt like I was hanging out with friends, and that is my plan.
It's the best way to work, right?
Right. Well, I mean, work is data analysis and figuring stuff out and marketing strategy. This is fun. So this is my plan for the weekend.
Yep.
A couple more parties tonight to meet people, hang out, catch up with people I haven't already. Same for the weekend, and then I fly back to Malta on Monday.
Very cool. And thinking about the panel yesterday, what was the kind of highlight from Bo Whitney or anybody else? Was there a kind of takeaway, particularly around the sort of Spanish market? Thinking, because there's always lots of talk around what's happening right now.
Yeah, I didn't attend the Spanish market talks.
Okay, fair enough.
So they were very early, and I very much needed coffee.
Oh, no, I get that. Did they actually have coffee this year, unlike
They
last year?
did. They had coffee and snacks.
We have Mr. Chris Knight here, he owns a social club on the wonderful island of Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands.
That's correct, in Paradise Island.
The Paradise Islands. How long have you been out there now?
Coming up to 4 years in April.
4 years, cool. And what led you there? Was it the love of the island or cannabis or the opportunity to do both?
A bit of both, really. So we had a business in the UK that was very big at the time. So we just spent more and more time out in the Canaries, and I designed my life around being out there. So we made a decision one day, and on a whim, let's do it. So that's what we did, and we just moved out there and never looked back. But I'll be totally honest, I wasn't aware of the cannabis scene in the Canary Islands when I was there. So when I first moved there, I was going to the streets to get my...
So you kind of, again, I don't want to say user, but, cannabis, consumer in the UK. Cool. Big time, yeah. But you didn't really know about the scene. So what led you to open the club? What made you kind of just think, this is a thing?
What it was, I was with a friend one day, and I was just absolutely devastated about the products and just how substandard it was, and I was really missing the UK's, product. And I said to him, "Where'd you get your weed from, bro? It's like, it's much better than mine." He said, "Oh, what club do you use?" I'm like, "Club? What are you talking about?"
What's his club?
So he took me to a club, and that was it. Then as soon as I knew that these things were available, I made it my mission to get myself one and never look back. Yeah.
Very cool. And this is Rick, your business partner?
Yeah, Rick, my business partner.
So you're based out there. Do you run the club together actually on the islands? Is that
No, so sorry. Yeah, the club's actually in the process of being moved.
Okay.
So I was just explaining then, because of location, it didn't really work. So we invested heavily into a big super club, if you like. We wanted to do something different and make it. The clubs out there are good. I'm not going to do them any disservice, but I don't think there's enough love put into it, and I don't think the right message is being spread through them. So
do you feel like it's a bit too commercially focused rather than there's the cannabis heart that really counts?
I think so. Certainly in Fuerteventura, I'm not. I can't generalise for the whole Canaries, because there's some amazing clubs throughout the Canaries, so that do things very, very well. But from our island's perspective, it was missing a club that was doing it for the right reasons. Okay. So we closed the club, and we turned it into we got the premises. So they're our premises. So we had to turn that into another business, so we turned it into a bar, and then we actually just took a license on a new premises, which the club will hopefully be back open in June.
Very cool. Very cool, man. So yeah, well, so that's what's happening now. I mean, I don't want to say compare the experience that you've had in your club to something like this, but this is quite a nice place, right?
This is a cool place. This is a great. Yeah, this is a great place.
Big love to the Green Boutique.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
But have you been here before? No, because you recommended this place, didn't you?
Oh yes, I was here during the World CBD Awards, and I love it. It's my favorite club that I've ever been to anywhere in the world. It reminds me of a lot of New York speakeasies, so it feels like home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went to the Strain Hunters last night and saw these guys, and it's great. But the difference is, like I was saying earlier, it's like a student union bar in the UK to coming into like, whoa, I'm not classy enough to be here kind of joint. That's kind of sort of thing. But that's good. That's
where I want
just
to
me.
be. I don't want to be a member of a club that would have me.
Yeah,
I want
so
to be the ones where they're like,
if you
"What
let
is
me in,
she?"
I'm not coming in. No, I know what you're saying. It's really, really nice. And I think I had a chat with Eva a while back, and she was sort of saying how about elevating the experience, and it doesn't need to be something kind of seedy or kind of leaning into the whole Bob Marley aesthetic for the sake of and that's one of my big complaints actually around the whole cannabis aesthetic.
Yeah, it's like cartoon ganja cannabis leaves, like in like garish colours.
Yeah.
There's a huge subculture. It's a subculture that we've always kind of strayed away from in the UK. I don't know why. I mean, like if it suits people, it suits people. Like you say, it's got kind of like I'm 16 and I've just discovered weed, and
I can drive a car now.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Like spliffy jeans, right? Everyone.
I wasn't cool enough to get a spliffy jacket.
No, I wasn't cool.
I think it's about identifying who you want your target market to be.
Yeah.
100%. And if you've identified this would attract a different clientele that maybe strain hunters would, but I think that each club's got that individuality that attracts their market.
Wait, I have a thought on marketing.
Okay.
Most people don't think about that. Most people are like, this is what I want, so that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to be totally successful and fine. And it's not just clubs, it's a lot of businesses don't understand that their market is not them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you have to know your audience in every business really, not just in this. But this is a very, very nice, well presented, cool vibe. This is a club I'd like to spend a lot of time in myself. But equally, I like Strain Hunters. Yeah. I like Terps Army. I like the Plug. These are all good. These are all great.
When I go out for a drink in the UK, sometimes I'll go to like a dingy old man pub. Sometimes I'll go to a wanky cocktail bar where I'm spending 15 quid on an espresso martini. Everyone wants a slightly different experience, and not every experience is like, and to get on my soapbox about it, like this is, I think if people in the UK saw clubs like this, cannabis clubs, the idea of, especially the UK right-wing media, what they would suggest would happen if cannabis was legalised, we would have shitloads of this. We wouldn't have loads of youths hanging out on the street corner, smoking weed and mugging old grannies.
What's
this is what we would get.
The cocktail bar, the Alchemist? You've been to one of those like chain ones they have?
Yeah, right. So
it's kind of,
there's some, we would have some of those. We would have some like sort of dingier, kind of more DIY, aesthetics. But I genuinely think this is what you would expect from something in the Northern Quarter in Manchester. A really nice decorated place, cool vibe, good clientele, and this perception that cannabis is just going to lead to chaos on the streets. No, it's not. It's going to have nice businesses like this.
Amen.
Do something fucking about it.
But I think also when you talk about leading to chaos, we've been to a number of clubs over the last 24 months, and not seen one bit of trouble, not seen one argument, not seen one crossword, not felt intimidated, not felt like anything was going to kick off at any one time. So the cannabis consumer is not normally of that ilk, if especially when you put everyone together into a room, you kind of feed off the vibe, don't you?
I mean, these are on every street corner in Barcelona, right? And how many times do you see people stumbling out, like you say, causing trouble, getting? People just come in, they smoke a bit of weed, and they go home.
Well, that's the good thing. It's gone now. All that sort of. There's so many different clubs, so many varieties, and that has gone. It's like from when I was there, 28 years ago, and it was sort of like brawlish, brawlish.
Lads.
Yeah, and you go into the club, you've got like, I don't know, some of the clubs are really dingy, and you're treated badly, you're kicked out. There's no environment, social.
But bro, when have you ever been to Amsterdam and seen any any fighting or any trouble, really. Like that like the weed community that brings. You know, the only time I've seen trouble in Amsterdam is when I've been there with England football.
Yeah, but because you've got the split with the
So
alcohol
yeah,
as
ban
well.
football, promote weed. Let's do a let's do a trade-off.
But the beautiful thing now,
Weed ball.
You have to consume like an edible before you kick a football around. Like, fuck me, I would pay money to watch that.
but that's the great thing now about having all these nice clubs. It's like this club here, you know, everyone's got a club that can suit their taste, and it all depends. It's like over in
It's almost like,
Forteventura
do we
with the
need
greenery.
individual spaces for individual things? Can it just be like a place where you can get booze, you can get, it hasn't have to have a specific purpose other than
Can you imagine
leisure.
the Daily Mail if we had alcohol in cannabis clubs in the UK? Jesus Christ!
And you've got a lot of
wouldn't hear the end of it.
you've got a lot of medical users now, and you've got we have quite a lot of elderly people that come in that are getting at home, they're making their own oils, they're coming on holiday, and for the first time they're actually feeling confident to come on holiday and experience the clubs. But they still walk in the club and they knock on the door, and it's still that first initial, the ring on the doorbell.
They don't know what to expect. Do they?
Yeah, and the door opens.
And it's like here, it's
you've
like
got all sorts.
I knew this would be a nice place, but it's like from the outside, it's just a frosted window, and you're like, oh, I said it looks nothing from the outside, but by design almost,
What's going on behind closed doors?
Wow.
Sorry, I think legally here it has to look like nothing. If it looks like a club, it can't operate.
Yeah, they can't. No,
But
that's the sad thing.
across the islands, certainly there's a huge difference in what you're allowed to do. So for Lanzarote, for example, there's clubs up with full signage. They've got full livery outside. They've got big ganja leaves, they're illuminated. They've got 4 or 5.
Tells people what to expect from that, but then it's like, well, you know what to expect, but that doesn't appeal to me, the kind of elderly patient or whatever. I'm just like, all right, I'm staying right away from that.
But
more comfortable.
yeah, but the comparison. The comparison to Forteventura is you're not allowed any signage at all. We had a small, tiny sign on with the operating times, members only, because that's what you have to say, and a small, tiny, modified cannabis leaf that we rounded it up so it didn't look like a glary ganja leaf, and that's all we was allowed. And the police come and took a photograph of it, so you have to be.
What, so you couldn't change it?
No, you couldn't change
Yeah,
it. No.
they took a photo.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
couldn't change it.
Well, you have to have on there over 18s only, no tourists.
So they were like clocking you, like you haven't done it properly, or this is too
Yeah,
advertising,
yeah.
kind of thing. Oh wow!
Are they just
Oh wow! So they take it seriously.
They're just as heavy on publishing
So alcohol.
underage drinking and things
No,
like that.
no,
they
that's
don't
not in the
care.
bar, no.
Anyone who's going.
16, you can buy beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they classify cannabis as more dangerous than alcohol then.
Yeah. But they're very relaxed at the same time with it, so it's.
Okay. Yeah, it's better than the UK.
Yeah.
It's like on paper, it's it has to be treated this way, but in reality, it's like, well, yes, fine, don't worry.
Yeah, and the laws are different. So I got caught in my car driving with cannabis in my car. My car was stinking, of course. Police, I ran down the window, and it was obvious that I had cannabis in the car. So I did a swab test. I hadn't smoked that day. It was early in the morning, but it was still in my system from the day before. But the point of the story is, he went to my car, went to my box, opened it up, smelt it, put it back, left it, give me a €500 fine, and sent me on my way. So they didn't take with my weed. Yeah, they didn't take nothing off me.
I want to be a police.
So, but I didn't get banned from driving. I didn't get any points. I just got a fine.
I'll take that and your €500.
It's a much more pragmatic approach than would be in the UK, whereas you're instant banned for, I think, is it 18 months minimum or 2 years minimum? So if I smoke this spliff now, I'd probably be liable for a ban in 2 days, which is ridiculous.
There's a law though that it's still iffy at the moment because I'm UK medical registered, but on my prescription case it says that if I avoid driving if you feel drowsy, sleepy, but then on the bottom it says, but if you know the effects of the medicine and you basically know how to take it, you can drive. So that's the sort of.
You open a box of paracetamol and you take out a 42 sheet sort of thing that tells you.
It's
you
still
may...
got that avoid machinery.
Yeah,
machinery if you feel drowsy. So, but I've been used using cannabis for 31 years now, so
Then where's the advice around the dosage and what you should expect? And
Yeah.
But they can't. Maybe they can't be because it's so different on everybody's system. And you can't sort of regulate. You can kind of give guidelines, but I guess regulators don't like. It has to be something specific, nothing too vague.
Yeah, NICE are very hot on the regulations, but with mine it says I have to take 0.1 of a gram
That's
at one
right.
time with
Yeah.
no more than 1 gram a day.
yeah, we have to vaporise
And
as
yeah,
well.
it has to be vaporised.
Yeah.
Well, but they have to say it has to be vaporised because obviously
that's
it's
the law,
carcinogenic,
yeah,
and
which,
if you ignite it at
Yeah, I
a
stick to the
temperature.
vaporising.
I prefer it now. It took me a while, but I actually really, really like it.
Yeah. Of course, yeah, but I'm so relieved that I can actually go about town. I can go to a football match, I can go, I can just get on, take my girls to a football match, just get on with my life. And I've got my medication on me, and it really is medication. It's not, I'm not running around giggling and blowing it in people's faces to try and, I'm not. I'm just getting on with my day and just, and
I think a lot of people, whether they use recreationally, are actually probably using medically anyway for some sort of reason.
So I work on content at the cannabis community in the US, and most of our audience that is adult use, recreational, it's just for an unrecognized medical situation. And that is a lot of people.
But I mean, the hurdles to get. You have to prove that you've had 2 types of treatment and whatever, because I went through the process. It's fairly rigorous. I mean, if you've got an existing condition, not a problem. They know, they can link up. But I guess I've heard in the US it's like, my back, try cannabis. Is it that bad? Sorry.
First of all, you mean that good.
Touché.
But also, no. I mean, it's really hard because doctors don't know. A lot of doctors don't have the education that they need. And so they are nervous about doing anything, saying for a lot of people, finding a doctor that feels comfortable talking about cannabis is more educated than they are about cannabis.
Yeah, you're
it's
right there.
really, really hard. Yes, I'm speaking to the US because that was the question.
Yeah, it's like the UK. It's the same. It's the same with the UK. They're just the doctors. I had to go through Sapphire Medical.
Yeah, I went
But
through
like, I had
my
to do
access.
and I
Sapphire.
had to obviously give them all of my records, and they went through, and I got through because of anxiety, and but yeah, and they went through the.
It's
But
like Pop Idol or something. You've got through to the second round. You raised
it is, yeah, because if I'd have gone to the
It's-
doctor
it's
and
a
said,
bit weird.
I'm using cannabis, it's like, they all look at you. They're older doctors. They've got the book, and they just look at you like, no one's open about talking about it. Mainly, doctors they've had that book. They've got on with what they've been taught.
So
and
you went to
No,
like
what they've been told.
we went to an MCCS talk with Mike Barnes, and they were again. The whole thing is like it's a cannabis 101 for medical professionals, and these are very well-educated people, but they've not been taught that it doesn't register on their education. So it's like having to go back and do basically first day of uni for doctors again. They're just like,
Mike's got
fuck
some
that.
quite interesting views on why kind of people are a bit. I mean, he'll explain it better, but like a lot of kind of GPs, and especially older GPs, they're very patriarchal, and they don't. Some of them don't kind of like the patient coming with more knowledge about something than them. So it's that kind of not an ego thing, but they're like, no, I'm supposed to be telling you what you should do, and then someone comes in and goes, actually, let me tell you all these benefits of cannabis, how it could help me, and why you should be listening. And they're kind of a little bit taken back, which is fair enough. But it's not actually. No, it's bullshit. It's not fair enough.
And if I can add, so I know a surgeon, and he likes to partake every now and again. But for him to go into it medically, he would kind of have to half give up his career because it's not respected within the medical community. It's kind of frowned on. So he's explored going into some sort of medical cannabis role, but he would have to stop being a surgeon. And he wouldn't be able to progress any more in his career. He's a consultant surgeon, and the other surgeons would not look on it favourably.
They'd sort of like ostracize him, kind of thing. I guess it would be like, well, no, I get it, and then that's a huge place to have got to from a career perspective. To suddenly go, right, okay, I'm going to. Yeah, it's a shame there has to be like he has to throw that away to kind of embrace cannabis.
Yeah, he just wouldn't be taken seriously in his profession, and he is an extremely professional guy, and he wouldn't risk it.
That's awful though, the way that it's awful, isn't it, that they have to hide that away.
He's a surgeon, he has people's lives in his hands every day, and he needs to be extreme professional at all times, and if he doesn't appear to be professional amongst his colleagues, it's a big problem for him.
it's a little bit like my journey, not a surgeon obviously, but having to hide your consumption, especially when I had a job when I worked for somebody else. That was hard because you can lose your livelihood at any moment. But when I started having my own businesses, I still had to hide it from my staff because I had an example to set to people, and I made a mistake with one business by not hiding it, and all the lads would come out on the lunch break, have a joint with me, and it was an irresponsible thing to do. But looking back, well, I was only young, so but yeah, having to hide. Certainly, like from customers as well. You can't be yourself around your customers. You can't go there and actually give you a true account of yourself because you have to hide that certain element.
So just go into the cannabis industry and then you can celebrate it.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, that's it. Come and do a podcast and have a joint. Yeah.
Exactly. The same as being in the cannabis industry, being a medical cannabis patient, you no longer have to make excuses for yourself.
No, that's right.
And people who would before look down on cannabis, they can't really look down on it if it's been prescribed by a doctor.
It's interesting because it's that whole thinking about it as something that you have to embrace rather than something you can just do. It has to be like fully, and I guess that's good and bad. I was seeing on one of the WhatsApp groups, so there's a lot of people from the US in town, and the people were kind of openly sort of partaking in public and things like that, and were kind of shocked when they were like told off. And it's like, well, technically, if you look at the law, it might be tolerated, but it's still illegal. And
it's very much a grey area, isn't it? Yeah, a very Spanish grey area. And like you say, I mean, I went to Vegas last year, and literally you come out of the hotel and it stinks of weed, but you can't smoke weed in the casinos. Everyone's smoking cigarettes. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
People chain smoking at the tables.
And that's not even the worst thing that happens there.
Eyes are out, I'd get told off.
We just walk around with a vape, no one seems to care.
Yeah.
But that's all cool. That's all good. But no, it is interesting, and I think, again, the sort of attitudes toward it kind of being, you can do this openly, it's fine, and people come and go, oh, right. We're so used to it being in the US, just open, kind of having to have cannabis openly, but coming here, it's like, oh, it's legal, but it's not, and there's that ambiguity. It's like people aren't kind of accustomed to it, I guess, coming here. But
and it's a little bit misleading, especially for people that are visiting, because they are assuming that this is Amsterdam, where you can, everyone's been to Amsterdam, they know Barcelona's the next place. And
especially if Amsterdam bans like tourists or whatever the hell's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
They've been threatening that, haven't they?
It's all about
I think there
Malta.
needs to be more education as well from the clubs to explain people, and that would help the clubs then do what they're doing, and it would bring less attention to, when people are leaving the club,
But yeah, the sort of social club, I mean, thinking around what could be in Malta if that's sort of happening. And I guess the door's still open. No one really knows what's going to happen, right?
I mean, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen faster than other people think because A, I'm an optimist, and B, I know some people on the island who are sinking large chunks of money into different things, and they're Maltese and quite smart. So I don't think that they would be spending this much money to move this quickly if they didn't feel very confident that things were happening.
Can we talk Maltese cannabis conspiracy theories?
Oh yes, go on.
I can't remember if it was you who told me. Someone told me this, and it may have been you. Maybe we delete this. That the whole reason that they kind of went down the route of cannabis legalization was to get rid of the press about the
I said that on the podcast.
assassinations.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
I am spreading so much gossip.
It's Maltese gossip.
I love a bit of this.
So I was not on the island for this. So I heard it from a Maltese person, so it feels real, that the reason they pushed cannabis legalization, because it came out of nowhere and it just immediately went over the line, was because there was a journalist who had been researching, looking into corruption in the government, who died, who was assassinated, and then it was someone in the government was implicated. Yeah.
7 days assassination.
Yeah, it was.
None of this Novichok nonsense.
No.
Yeah.
Straight in there.
Yeah, and so the theory, not my theory, but what I've heard is that they pushed this through immediately in order to take over the press cycle, to newsjack it. So everyone was talking about this instead of that. And I got to tell you, it worked, because it took, after me moving to Malta, several months after to even hear anything about this.
Classic deflection.
Yeah,
Classic deflection.
It's the big game to flip things, and everyone's wow.
What's the product like? What's the actual quality like?
So you cannot get adult use right now. It's legal, but you cannot purchase it because there are no clubs. So you can grow your own, and then it's whatever you grew. You can get medical, which is horrible because it's irradiated and not good quality to begin with, because what other choices do you have?
I've heard about that radiated.
Yeah. Oh, it's not great. And then if you happen to know a friend, but hopefully clubs, hopefully this year.
But like in your opinion, from your own consumption, is it good?
The medical stuff is shit.
Yeah, but the stuff that if you know a friend.
If you know the right friend.
Yeah.
It depends on who you know. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure why so good, but I think necessity. People are desperate and have high standards because we have phenomenal food and weather and wine. Like, yeah, I mean, Malta is, one of the things I love about Malta is there is a lot of really high quality, everything but construction. And so standards are high. I think people got into it. I mean, you can get good weed anywhere if you know where to go. Yeah.
We'll have to go to Malta.
Yeah, I think we
Yes,
will.
do
That's
come.
oh,
Hang out. Then it's a work trip. 'Cause
no, that's what. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're looking at like doing some sort of world tour at some stage and just going around all these
It's all about Thailand right now. You've got to get to Thailand.
Yeah, my friends managed to get a license. They're just growing in a house at the moment legally. But it's all going to change. Well, he's telling me as soon as the elections happen and the new government comes in, they're going to clamp down on it.
So this is how lame I am. Last night when I came back from the social club, I watched. Well, this is not lame because of the thing. It's just lame that I came in at 9:30 on a night in Barcelona and watched a podcast. It's David Palashuk, if you know him from Branding Bud, the guy who wrote the book. They were doing a podcast live from Thailand, and they were on LinkedIn. So lame. That's all I did last night. Watched that, and it was actually really, really fascinating. Thinking of hearing what's happening there, and they mentioned the election and that. Everyone's just gone right. Cannabis is legal. Right, everyone set up a dispensary. Go, go, go. And
I mean, it's like a complete and utter 180, right? They've gone from being really tough on drug consumption to going, fuck it, let's open 2,000 dispensaries in Barcelona. Let's just do it. And we were talking about earlier, it's quite a good tourism move. Obviously post-COVID, what could get loads of people over to our country? Weed. So yeah.
Simone says people are just walking down the street smoking a spliff as a cannabis club on every single street. He says it's crazy and it just happens so fast. I haven't been. So I went out to PP Island 2017. There's a bar there which you could buy weed from, Thai weed, called Banana Bar, and it was, I don't know, it was obviously illegal but tolerated. I think they had to pay the police quite a lot of money, and the Thai weed was really nice out there, but that was the extent of it. You couldn't. So I'm really looking forward to going. So it's Canaries, Malta, and then Thailand. Yeah.
Go to, you can kind of do them all. Get one of those round the world trip kind of vibes.
And then divorce.
Yeah. So I'll see my family in when they're grown up. They'll be all right. They'll get on without me. Probably be easier.
I've just, it's been so easy with the right, just to travel the world in the name of cannabis, and I think that's one of the great, but most, that's the most dangerous thing about cannabis is you get involved and you're just like, wow, I just want to do here, see this, what's going on here, I like this. It's just there's too much, so much going on.
One of the perks of the job, right?